meetings. I'm sorry, I don't have one with me.
I have no idea. Oh, do you want, is that yours?
New salt barn.
I've got, did you get one? Right here.
No.
Then that's yours. Get yourself
Okay, we're going to move now to
No,
Streets
not
and
that.
Public Buildings with Mr. Severns to discuss a new salt barn.
Yes. 6:50. All right. How we doing tonight, folks? All right, Mr. Ball, would you please come up to talk to us about this salt barn that we have been looking at for a few years, I think.
Welcome, council. Yes, so just anecdotally, so the salt barn we have now was an ODOT Highway Patrol outpost that's owned by the county. The county is planning to vacate that facility when they move the Knox area transit over to High Street and Chestnut Street. So I don't believe we want to buy this used facility, plus the salt barn is too small and in poor condition. So in the master planning that we've been doing, we're looking at installing the salt barn at the 1700 Old Delaware Road. So it would be at the facility where we have all the trucks and the loaders and the lime. So we would put one there. The other thing in the master plan as we look at a East End fire station, a future thing would be a East End salt barn at the same facility. So, but at this point, we're only talking about a salt barn at the street garage. So we would load the trucks the night before, we put them in the garage, they're heated, ready to go. We would reload the trucks at the same facility. And then instead of having an asset that's on someone else's property down by the river in the floodplain, we would have it on our property. So we're looking at about around 600,000. This would be a larger facility. The other thing is we would include material storage. So one side would be for street, the other side would be for distribution and collection. So the material storage bins have fallen out of the budget every single year, as far as I know, since probably 2012. So right now, distribution collection, their material storage bins are at the Parks Department. So they keep a backhoe over there and maintain their materials there. And I don't know, street department just has them outside in a pile and they just go buy stuff as they need it. So the idea of when we have emergencies and need things, we would have these materials under roof in a more of a concrete Quonset hut building instead of the two wooden buildings we're using now. So questions?
The money is not appropriated. Are we talking about transfer or what?
No. So if you have your, Terry and I just went over this. If you have your worksheet that is dated
Okay.
2/2024, it's kind of hiding here under the roof projects. We have salt barn. You appropriated 800,000. At this point, we feel we can get under that number.
If we were to approve this and move it forward, what do you think it would be a timeline, Brian, for that to be
We're not
done
going
and
to
ready to go?
My department's not going to do anything on this until the middle of July. But we would, as soon as, we're kind of like the CNC depot's out to bid, splash pad is kind of next in the line, so this would kind of roll out. We would hope to put this out to bid end of July, early August. So
Potentially up and built within a year.
most likely, if we give the builder sort of if we give them a December 31st, 2025, we would hope to get a better price. So if we say 24, we're probably paying 100,000 extra. So our thought would be, there's no federal aid or anything associated. No, they don't give federal aid for salt barns right now. I don't know why. You need salt with your popcorn, right? But the idea is, since this is our project, we could give them all of next year, or say Thanksgiving 2025 is a completion date, and that would hopefully bring the price down about 100,000.
How long can we use our existing salt barn?
Well, the county hasn't started the CAT facility, so they're supposed to give us, I think, a 2-year heads up on us moving out, and so they haven't done that. So once they start construction, I think we have I'll look at Rob, I can't remember. I think it was a 2-year move out. They'll give us a 2 years notice to move out. So last year, last winter we didn't use very much salt, so they filled the barn until it cracked, and then Tom's like, "What do we do?" And I said, "Stop filling it." So then we made a deal with Heartland Commerce Park, and we put a couple 100 tons of salt in their salt barn as an emergency, because the problem is we either need all of it and more than we have, or we don't. We have too much to fit in the barn. So this barn will be bigger to deal with those sort of ups and downs in capacity. So if we have to carry over salt, we'll have that, because we have to take 90% of our order that we have to put in, like, I don't know, April. So we all read the Farmer's Almanac, but what are you going to do, right? So it's hard. But if we have a bigger barn, we'll be able to deal with those ups and downs that we can't deal with now. So we plan to have it done in 25 for winter 25, 26, and we should be good to move out of the county's facility in time.
So we've already got it budgeted and appropriated.
Yep.
And currently our salt is in a county facility, where if CAT moves, which they're going to here eventually,
Yeah, they're going to want
we would
us.
eventually have to have the salt out there anyway. Plus where it's stored is not a serviceable condition of a building. It works.
It works, but ODOT gave it to the county
Right, so it's in
many decades
shape.
ago.
Okay.
So we've
Alright.
done
So it makes
repairs
sense
to it.
move.
It's too small. We have to dump the salt on the ground, pick it up, put it in the barn, because the trucks that are on the road now can't get in the barn. So what we would build would be something, a Quonset hut style, so you could, if it's raining or not, you could back the truck in, dump in the barn, so it could full dump in the barn, and we're not putting it on the ground and scooping it up to put it in the barn with our loader. I mean, part of the death of our last backhoe was they had to stack the salt with the backhoe. So the salt was in all of the working components of the backhoe. So the idea is you back in, dump, it's there. We could massage it with a payloader if we need to. So
And how many years running has this been on the wish list for the city? A few.
I'll look at Terry, because that's before me.
It's at least 5 to 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so probably 7. Because the material bins were on the wish list that I saw back to 2012. The salt barn, was debate on what to do, because it's eventually the county's going to sell that, and I don't think that we have any interest in buying a building that is way past its useful life.
Any other questions, council? Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Plan to take this to third reading tonight?
Yes, I think we're gonna try to suspend and move this.
Then we'll move now to the utilities of Mr. Ruckman to discuss the Inflation Reduction Act grant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian?
Yeah, so Emily, here's one of our summer help from Kenyon. She has passed out a little handout on this grant. It's a little bit confusing. It's a little bit hard to understand, but basically, the EPA has designated an area, and I guess I'll let you talk about that. She's going to talk about the grant, and then I'll talk about what we want to do with the grant. So there's a map that shows you the area that's done by the Environmental Justice Tool. So the thing to remember about federal aid, every slice of federal aid has a different place where you're allowed to spend it. So with the CDBG, which many of you have been to our never-ending public meetings, there are certain areas we only can spend CDBG. So this one, we have a small area of town on the back that is south of High Street. It actually miraculously includes City Hall and the courthouse, and then it goes down into Clinton Township. So I'll let Emily talk about what the grant is, and then I'll jump back in and talk about what, if we were to apply for it, what we'd spend the money on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the grant, the grant basically addresses needs in the EPA designated disadvantaged community. And the projects within the grant need to relate to climate change or environmental concerns. So reducing and preventing pollution, building resilience to climate change, stuff like that, kind of bolstering the community's strength in that regard. It's a no cost sharing or matching required grant. So yeah, that's Great. And then there are two track options. So we would apply under track 1, which the awards would be up to $20 million, $10 to $20 million. And they expect to award about 150 of those track 1 awards. And to be eligible, it would be a lead applicant, so us and Clinton Township would be the lead applicants, and then we'd need a community-based nonprofit organization as a statutory partner, and then there are also collaborating entities that you can add or not have, but in order to get like a good award, you would need a few collaborating entities. And so the lead applicant can submit a maximum of 2 applications in the rolling application period. They're due November 21st. But in order to kind of get, if they reject the first time, we would need to apply relatively soon in order to have time to apply a second time. Yeah, and then once awarded, lead applicant has 3 years to complete all the projects that they've outlined in their application.
So, where we were with the mayor earlier, kind of, our thought was we'll put the kitchen sink. So, the list on the back exceeds $30 million. So, there would be some paring down. But our thought is we're going to go ahead and ask for the full 20. And then if they sort of give us the line item veto, we can dial it back. And some of these projects, obviously the courthouse, we're not asking them for the full project. We would ask for some token amount to help us build a courthouse. We're obviously going to continue to plant trees, so that's an area we would throw in a cost share. There's some projects that we're gonna do anyway. There's some Clinton Township only projects which have parentheses on them. The Parrott Street sewer, something we need to do, but the health department wants us to spend over $1 million for 7 customers, and as Tammy can attest to, there is no math that makes that a good idea. But if the EPA wants to pay for it, then that math could work. So we've never been able to build that project. We've never been able to do the math to spend $1 million to get 7 customers. So some of these projects have been hanging out there a little bit. Others, the West End Sanitary, as we had the public meetings, there's some really unhappy people that south of High Street is not in a CDBG area. But as we said at the first public meeting, south of High Street is in these environmental justice US EPA target areas. So the sewer that we're fixing north of High Street will be CDBG, and the sewer hopefully south of High Street would be US EPA. So the reopening the railroad to Ohio Farmers Co-op, that's 600 trucks per harvest. That's a lot of air pollution, a lot of kids walking in front of grain trucks that could just leave on a train. So I think, like I said, the mayor, we all sat down for about an hour, kind of putting this wish list together, and we'll obviously pare it down. We're open for any kind of comments or things, particularly in the West End, and would be
One of the neat projects.
yeah, a
One
lot of
that
neat
jumps off
projects.
the page of me, I've always wanted to see is the Blackjack Wetlands enhancement. But who knows if that'll happen, but it's one of the most beautiful spots of Mount Vernon. That Buttonbush Bog is in bloom. It's a shame people can't see it.
Yeah. So we're thinking about putting a restroom complex there, very similar to what we're doing at Memorial Park. The boardwalks that were dreamed up original, what year was that? Wetland was 2008? Yeah, so from the original idea of that wetland, making it public access. So yeah, we just kind of went through the portfolio master plans. Questions?
So the floodplain work on the west end south of High Street, is that something that would be a cost share element because we're already doing
Yeah.
some work with the surveys and, okay.
Right, because so as Emily said, we don't have to do any cost share. But if we do cost shares, we get more points. So we really don't want to do a cost share on the Parrott Street sewer, but we're already under contract. We're already working on floodplain projects. And so some of that implementation could be rolled into that. There's so yeah, it's kind of a market basket of things. Obviously, some of these will have to be pared down. We can do neighborhood trash cleanup. We can replace people's non-compliant wood burning stoves in their house. I mean, this is a broad package. So We don't totally understand. Most people don't. This is the first time ever. So the idea is the EPA will let us apply, and then if we're close, we get a feedback session and we get to update and reapply. So the idea is it's open, so we could apply today up until whatever the date is in November. So we want to get an application in soon, hoping that we get some feedback and get a second bite at the apple or the big stack of $100 bills, whichever you want to visualize.
Does anybody else have any questions?
In the resolution, it mentions Clinton Township. Which of these projects are Clinton Township projects?
So we have doing some ecosystem restoration in Beams Lake. The Fairview subdivision, part of that is what we call Dogtown. So that's Crystal Avenue, Johnson. So that project is finishing that water system like what we're doing in Buckeye Addition. They would be eliminating Westgate Trailer Park as a private water system. We would also have Kentucky and Pittsburgh Avenue, 6th, 7th, and Terrace. So a complete $5 million water system in Clinton Township. Then what else do we have?
So
Then the tree planting, the levee work, some of that could be in and out of Clinton Township. Go ahead.
Clinton need to sign off on this too?
Oh, they already have. So we have our folks have been to Clinton Township, so they have passed resolution. Theirs is 2024-6-03. So we have their resolution allowing us to be the lead applicant and partner with them. So they passed that on June 3rd, and their fiscal officer has attested to that.
All right,
So
that's good.
we were over there talking about water work anyway, so they went ahead and said, let's do it.
So what's your intention on this, Mr. Reckman?
I'd like to try to pass it tonight if council's agreeable. So that way we
Any
can apply
issue?
sooner and
All right,
hopefully
well,
get
thank you.
feedback.
Okay, finally, we move to finance and budget. Mr. Seabolt, discuss the codified ordinance, chapter 183.
Thank you. Mr. Scott's gonna talk to us about increasing this,
Well-
or is Rob gonna talk to us?
Actually, Mr. Stuller was supposed to be here.
Well, nobody's gonna talk to
Well,
us
no,
about this tax.
I will do this.
We're
so-
just gonna raise taxes on you guys, and you're not.
Actually,
Wow, no.
What this is, these are changes that the state of Ohio has mandated that we make to our income tax. They deal mostly with work from home and some other things. We had some difficulty because the model that we had previously used was from the Ohio Municipal League, yet the one that they picked this time was from the Regional Income Tax Administrators. It took us significantly longer than we had originally anticipated to make it work with what we currently have. Mr. Stoller and I collaborated over a period of several months, unfortunately, to get it all to work. And so that's what this is. These are mandated changes from the state of Ohio that we have to make.
Okay, so it's from 1.5% to 2%, so it's not.
Well, we're at 2%. That part about was actually changed a while ago, and it's strange because I have on my hard drive for my computer legislation from 2017 that corrects that, and I don't know why it never got passed by council, but that's just a cleanup from something that should have been done a while ago. We are not actually raising taxes, we are just stating what the current actual income tax rate is.
So it's already there.
Yes, it's been that way since 2017, when the people voted to raise the income tax rate.
Oh, okay, so you're not gonna, we're already doing this?
Yes,
Okay.
We're
So this will
updating
be
code.
no shock?
yes, we're just updating code, yes. There will be no raises in rates or anything like that. This is just confirming
Paperwork.
what we're currently doing as voted by the citizens of the city,
Okay.
a
All right.
referendum.
Any questions then? All right, then we'll pass this tonight, then if it's all right with everybody?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to adjourn the Finance and Budget Committee. We're now in recess until 7:30 PM. We begin the legislative portion of the meeting. And if anyone out there wants to speak on the public concerns, matters of public interest, make sure the clerk has
No idea what
your form.
happened.
p.m. Call the June 10th, 2024 meeting of City Council to order. Mr. Hill, please call the roll.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severns,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Here.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Here.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Mahan?
So moved.
Second.
And moving second, he be excused. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. He is excused. Invocation this evening will be given by Councilman Ruckman. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to gather together this evening in our great community. We ask that you would please just be with us in our time together, that you would grant us wisdom in all of the decisions that we make and the conversations that we have. We pray that you would please just allow us to grow closer together as we work together for the good of our community, and pray your blessing on all of our works, not only today, but into the years to come. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of your many blessings. Just ask that you would continue to guide us and protect us. And just thank you for, once again, for the opportunity to gather together here today.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, in your packets were the minutes of the May 28th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Now, that's for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and second, they be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. They are approved. Mr. Hill, any petitions or communications?
There are none.
Council, in your packets were several committee reports from the last meeting for your review. We do have two liquor control licenses. Mrs. Woods.
We do. We have one that will be transferred from doing business as Sunoco 10 on 10 North Sandusky Street to doing business as Sandusky Food Mart. That is a C1 and C2. The second is doing business as Smoker Friendly Party Center. That's 1145 West High Avenue Northwest, New Philadelphia, Ohio, being transferred to Warner Family Ventures LLC, 908 South Main Street. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, I see no proclamations, so now we're ready for a person speaking on matters of city concern. You may need to come to the podium and state your name and address, and limit your comments to 4 minutes. The first person is Bob Beck.
Did you say there was something to?
Nope.
Okay, not today. All right. Hi, my name's Bob Beck. Live at 10 Woodside Drive, Mount Vernon. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak at tonight's meeting on ordinance 20, 24, 21. It's Zero Vernon View property. What I'd like is I hope there's be some time in this meeting to maybe have Ms. Keener or the mayor speak about what's going on, because a month ago we had a meeting, there was going to be the second reading, and Ms. Keener said, oh, the developer, he's going to come up with new ideas. But me reading through the minutes, I can't find any difference. So hopefully, you guys have been talking with the developer, and you could share what's going on, because it isn't documented in a way that I can understand. So it's my understanding that because of the postponed previous council at the last minute request, the developer, we were told, was looking to revise the plans based on the community feedback. Well, is he still planning on using those single-family homes, selling those? Or is he going to go back to his build-to-rent? There could be many changes happened in this last month that there's some important issues that are, that really drive home our plus and, liking this or not liking it very well. The other issue that really hasn't come out, but yet, when we had the meeting down Municipal Planning Commission, the developer said he was not affiliated with Brooks Group, but yet Brooks Group sold the property for nothing. So if people do that in a family when you transfer things, but how would somebody who isn't, associated sell that much property for, just give it away? But that's what he said he did. And he said, oh, look at me, it's KNG Equity. So when you do a search, they don't even have examples of R1 single-family neighborhoods. So I know you shouldn't be expected to get on the internet and research these people, but they kind of open the door to make you question and wonder, I guess, maybe not their integrity, but it's when people are consistent and not telling the truth, it comes back. You don't trust them when they do say something. So the developer has continually shown us that he's not really priority related, lack of follow through, and I guess it's whether that's the type of developer we want in Mount Vernon. That you guys have the power to, I guess, put your foot down and maybe change things. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next person is Susan Holman.
Hello, my name's Susan Homan. This concerns the Zero Vernon View too also. I just have a list of bullet points of concerns. I'm concerned for the city with the runoff from excessive rains causing possible flooding from all the concrete, asphalt needed for the driveways, roads, and parking lots, along with the runoff from the roofs. I'm concerned with the added traffic that will come with more residential properties and possible apartment complexes and townhouses due to a PND zoning. I am concerned with the upkeep of the detention and retention ponds needed for this development. I am concerned that if the homeowners association fails, will we, as adjoining properties to the development, be responsible for the maintenance of these ponds? For the most part, on my street, we have many retired people on fixed incomes. This failure may become an extra financial burden on these, including me, residents. Finally, in my opinion, I feel that Sam Miller and the Cochran family overpriced this piece of land. There are hills and valleys within it. I feel sorry that Josh Williams was deceived that this would be a profitable venture. I truly hope that he will make a profit on this property. I just don't want this venture to compromise the safety of all Mount Vernon residents due to excessive flooding and excessive traffic caused by excessive development. As for the housing shortage, there are locations near Mount Vernon and surrounding communities more suitable for development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mike Hillier.
Some of you may know me, but I'm Mike Hillier. I live at 215 East Sugar. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I did lay one of these on everybody's desk. The quotes I have from the minutes, I actually cut and paste right from the minutes of the municipal planning meeting. So those aren't my words, that's actually the minutes. On June 24th, this council will hold a public hearing and vote on the decision of the Municipal Planning Commission as it pertains to Zero Vernon View Drive, R1 zoning to PND. I'd first like to draw your attention to the minutes of that meeting, and I believe corrections should be noted. Page 8, this is page 8 of the minutes. Mr. Bourne said there's a new owner, and that owner has the absolute right to ask the commission to change the zoning. Just like any other owner has the absolute right to come and ask the commission to either change or allow you to do different things on your property. We cannot stop a new owner from coming before the commission to ask for a change. In the description of the request, Arista Villa, Mount Vernon LLC, requests a zoning amendment from R1, single family, to PND, Planned Neighborhood District, to parcel, I'm not gonna do that, Todd does a better job than I do. This 39 acres parcel is located on the east side of Mount Vernon, so on and so forth. But it lists Arista Villas Mount Vernon LLC. Page 2 of the minutes, Mr. Hoorah, sworn in, explained his request for zoning amendment of the subject property to PND. He stated he is a different developer than requested rezoning of it for this property. According to the Knox County Auditor, Arista Villas Mount Vernon LLC has owned and still owns the property since May 23rd, 2023. Same owner. I asked the council to watch the video of the Planning Commission meeting. If you don't have time to watch the entire meeting, listen to the first part and the end prior to the vote. It's a little lengthy. There were 65 people in attendance that day, according to the minutes. 3 people spoke in favor of the zoning change: the mayor, Jeff Godke, and the developer. There were also 12 letters in opposition. Page 22 of the minutes. Todd Hawkins said he has a lot of concerns. He wanted to make it clear to the proposing group that he is vehemently opposed to anything that is below the standard of R1. In other words, if or when this gets approved and they come back with other development, he would not support apartments. Essentially, he believes it would need to be kept in a similar fashion as if it were R1. Mr. Salyers echoed those statements, and Ms. Ellsworth also agreed. There was a no vote. Our mayor even threatened the possibility of a tax increase if not passed. Page 23 of the minutes. Mayor Starr added, there are 2 ways that he knows that allows funds to be raised for the municipality. You can get more people contributing to the revenue stream, or you can raise taxes and fees, or spend less. That was my part. I challenge each and every one of you to drive from Beach Street to Vernon View Drive at a busy time of the day and try to make a left turn or go straight across to Eastmore Drive. There is way too much traffic now. You'll hear about traffic studies and the possibility of a new stoplight when the state will be involved. If you choose to change the zoning to PND, you're also opening the door for denser housing, more homes per acre than R1. Leave 0 Vernon View R1. And I'd just like to add this at the end. There is a lot of hush-hush about this. And, you know, Mayor, you have your monthly, weekly, whatever it is you do in here, your meeting with your, maybe a good time then, or one of your podcasts, to maybe talk about where we are, if the new plan's been turned in. And I thank you.
Thank you. The final person wanting
Thank you.
to speak is Susan DeLozier.
My name is Susan DeLozier, and I live at 10 Fairway Drive, and I'm also speaking about the 0 Vernon View. I didn't know some of these folks were coming tonight, so some of this might be repetitious. But I knew tonight you were going to do the second reading for the proposed change, and so I've made a little packet for everybody. And what you have in front of you is just kind of a snapshot of what happened at the 2 meetings. And then I made copies of the meeting minutes for you. I know you probably have them, but I wanted them all in one place for you. I hope you can read them because there are some real concerns and valid questions by the homeowners in the area. So, okay. We're talking about spring of 2023. Real estate investor Josh Williams from Baltimore, Maryland, Brooks Group LLC, he was with at the time, finds out about a parcel of land for sale in Mount Vernon. Before the land was purchased, the neighbors knew that this was R1, but Mr. Williams wanted to change it to R3, and so of course there was opposition. Mrs. Cochran was the owner of the property, and she sent a letter to the Mount Vernon Municipal Planning Commission February 1st, 2023, and another one, for the record, in March of 2023 opposing the rezoning and asking the application be withdrawn. And Mrs. Cochran's letters are in your packet. Well, the first meeting was on May 4th, 2023. It was held at the station break, and the room was packed, and Mr. Williams presented his plan. And next, there's a sentence that I wrote, I lifted right from the minutes. Okay, Mr. Williams presented his plan, and quote, "There was no one else there to speak in support of the proposal." No one. Mrs. Cochran read her letter, and then there was a whole lot of discussion about people smarter than me, about runoff and roof line and all kinds of stuff like that. Good stuff, good stuff. But that was denied. The request for the rezoning was denied that night. And then, so we were pretty happy. You know, we thought Mr. Williams might not have so much interest in this piece of land if he couldn't put his, apartments on it. So at the end of the meeting, someone asked him, would he be willing or open to the P&D? And he said, of course he would. So, let's see, I lost my place. Oh, so this is going to repeat what Mike said. So it was approved, send to City Council with these caveats, and that was that they would not support apartments. The land should be kept in a similar fashion as if it were R1, and the surrounding community purchased their homes believing they could expect a development to look similar. So now I've got some bullet points. I've always wondered since the get-go, why are we going out of our way to accommodate these investors? There is a confusion about Joshua Williams worked for L. Brooks, and then this, I don't know where Mr. Hura, the developer, but they both work for a company called Banksmore Inc. now, and you can look it up online. And their investment realtors or whatever, anyway, their job is to create an income stream into perpetuity for their investors. And I mean, I respect that, but I don't think they give a flip about Mount Vernon. That's just, anyway. Okay, so we've been told repeatedly that, when you see this plan and everybody's saying, what about this and what about this and what about this? And and I get this, it's not set in stone, it's just a rendition. But how can we vote on something where we really don't have any idea what we're going to end up with? I mean, I know there are the guidelines for the P&D and the R3 and the R1 and all that, but there's a whole lot of, okay, all right. Can I have another minute?
Yeah, go ahead, conclude.
Okay, so I realize there's a need for housing in Mount Vernon. I do. I just don't believe that it's right for this neighborhood. You have the Fairways, Upland Terrace, Dogwood Terrace, and Eastmore, a whole, what's the name of your street? I forget. Woodside. I always want to call it Woodline. Woodside. Even the people on Beach Street are upset about this. So, because of the traffic and everything. So I would just come to you today to ask you, and I know that it's going to take, 6 of you to say we don't want this. Could we just put pause on it just for a little while and see, we're building on all other sides of the city. Couldn't we just see how those are going to rent and sell? Anyway, thank you for the opportunity, and that's it.
Thank you. As you said, it does take 6 votes of council to overturn municipal planning. But if it's not by majority, then it goes back to municipal planning for their discussion. That doesn't mean so if it's a less than a majority vote to approve municipal planning's decision, then it's referred back to municipal planning. And for everyone's information, there will be, at our next council meeting, there will be a 30-minute public hearing, and we're anticipating a large crowd. And do we have the video set up downstairs yet?
It works. We do.
So there'll be video both up here and downstairs.
And in the lobby. And in the lobby.
3 places in case we have more people that will fit in this room, because with the fire department, the fire chief has a limit for the number of people that can be in this room. But we want to accommodate as many people as possible, and that will be the intention of the meeting. Do you have any comments, Mrs. Keener?
I would like to tell you that you asked if there had been changes to the design in the space that they asked for council to put that on hold, and there were no changes that we received at this time. I did send it to Ms. Beck, so I sent you an email, so hopefully that link worked. Or someone with this last name, so, but if you.
Probably sent that to Jenny.
Oh, okay. But if you want the design, you can come up to me after and I can email that to you. But at this point, there are no updates.
The one that's up there on.
It should be online now, yeah, but I know that the link was not working earlier.
Mr. President, if I may, I have also not been contacted by the developer at all, and I have not
No.
made any attempt to contact. It's not my development.
We've heard nothing.
I've heard
Yeah,
nothing.
heard nothing. We will vote on what we have.
And if I may, to clarify, this is still for the rezone. It's not a site
It's
plan.
not.
But they have kind of set themselves up for this, so it is what it is, I suppose.
Council, in your packet is a legislative portion of the meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Not, I'll assume it's approved by consensus. And we have no resolutions for third reading or second reading. We have some for first reading. The first one is resolution number 2024-57. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-57, a resolution confirming the mayor's appointment of Russ Menser to the Shade Tree and Beautification Commission for a 3-year term and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, sir. I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take Resolution 2024-57 to its third and final reading.
Second.
And moving second for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severns,
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
The rule is suspended. Mrs. Woods.
Thank you. I move to adopt Resolution 2024-57.
Second.
And moving second for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Woods.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam Chair and Council, thank you. If you don't know who Russ Menser is, then you've been living under a rock for quite
Yes.
a while. Anyway,
Agree.
Russ is a wonderful volunteer. He was actually named as one of the city's volunteers of the year last year for a lot of the cleanup that has been doing. And he's got some time on his hands and would like to get involved more in a much bigger way with the city. And so we felt that the Shade Tree and Beautification Commission would be perfect setup for him. He also expands our representation. He's in Ward 1, so we're able to involve another representative in that area. So he's excited to get started.
I saw Russ at First Friday, and he is excited about this. Any other discussion? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Next resolution is Resolution 2024-58. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-58, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Mount Vernon to make supplemental appropriations.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I would like to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take resolution number 2024-58 to its third and final reading.
Second.
And moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt,
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
Rules suspended. Mrs. Seabolt.
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-58.
Second.
And moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, it looks like we're going to take money in and out, in and out.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Mrs. Seavolt and council. We met with the judge, the clerk, and the probation department about 3 weeks ago. And in doing so, there were a number of topics that had come up through our discussions. And talking with the chief probation officer, as he was assembling his 2024 appropriations, he did not include any residual dollars that were left over in his grant program from the previous year. So I had Mr. Priest to go back and collectively put his appropriations together. You'll see that there are some minus numbers, mostly on the plus side. But what they were trying to capture, because this program that the court has is a two-year span of appropriations that actually takes 3 cycles to do, because the last half of the first part of the grant, July through December, then you get a whole 12 months, and then you will get January through June at the end. They did not bring all those dollars together with them, and so they kind of left them on the table. But that really isn't what the program was intended to be, and it intended to be perpetual going forward so that they can utilize the grant and maximize all their dollars. So what we're doing here is we're taking Mr. Priest's numbers. We've got these all put together. Judge Thatcher had great praises for the work that they do in their program, as well as what the grant has done for the court system has been substantially benefit for us. So with that, Mrs. Seavold, I won't go through all of them, but they are just adjusting line accounts from any residual dollars left from the 2023 grant program.
Any questions?
Mr. Hill?
Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavold?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Next resolution is Resolution 2024-59. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-59, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Mount Vernon to pay bills pursuant to Section 5705.41D, then and now certification.
Mrs. Seavold.
Thank you. I would like to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take resolution number 2024-59 to its third and final reading.
Second?
Moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavold?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
Rule is suspended. Mrs. Seavold.
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-59.
Second?
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Seavold.
Thank you. Now we're going to pay bills.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Seavold and Council. We have 3 items here that are then and nows for which purchase orders were not as timely as they needed to be to make these. These are pending. So we've got number 1, we have for union negotiation services, Knox County Transit Board for the Knox Area Transit, and it's a part of our program that we support with our with the CAT, and then to Civic Plus for 4255 in regards to our networking systems as well. And these are pending for payment at this time, ma'am.
Discussion. Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavold?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Next resolution is Resolution 2024-60. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-60, a resolution to apply for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, US EPA, Inflation Reduction Act Community Change Program, and to engage in a joint partnership agreement between the City of Mount Vernon, Ohio, and Clinton Township, Knox County, Ohio, in order to move forward with the US EPA funding opportunity for multiple improvement projects in the city and Clinton Township, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Ruckman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and move Resolution 2024-60 to its third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension?
Now, I ask one question.
Please, sure.
This says $20,000 up to
20 million dollars. It was a
Okay.
Scrivener's error that
I
got
just wanted
chopped
to make
off and-
sure. Okay. I was like, we could get more, guys. All right. Thanks. Sorry.
Mr. Hill.
We're going to need more than that.
1 minute here. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seavold?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
The rule is suspended. Mr. Ruckman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt Resolution 2024-60.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mr. Ruckman.
I would just like to give us more runway as we apply from this, hearing from Mr. Ball earlier. So if we can have a little bit more time to apply and maybe get some feedback and reapply, I think that would be best for the city, and hopefully we can actually get some of this coming back to our lovely city.
Any other discussion?
We don't have to clarify, I mean, we said 20 million, but this will be approved at 20 million.
Yeah. There was a typo when we converted from one file up to here, so the 3 zeros.
We don't have
got
to amend it, though.
No.
Okay, good.
Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted. Next resolution is Resolution 2024-61. Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-61, a resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Mount Vernon to make supplemental appropriations.
Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. I would like to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take resolution number 2024-61 to its third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
The rule is suspended. Mrs. Seabolt.
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-61.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you. Now we're talking about a lot of money.
Thank you, Mrs. Seavolt and Council. These are new supplemental appropriations coming into the city's treasury that was not anticipated at the beginning of the year. For line items 1, impound towing, our chief of police has been doing a significant amount of impounding of vehicles throughout the city for various reasons, obviously. However, the line account that we anticipated to start with in this line account has dwindled very much. And by the way, we have now taken in a bit over $5,000 additional revenues. So we're pairing this all together to give him some additional resources to continue doing what we need to do, and that is clean up our community with vehicles and the related. Item 2, bonds and inspections. People, when you have a street opening that comes through where the engineering department, somebody wants to cut into the roadway, they have to post a bond for that purpose. And so we have, again, exceeded that, as well as the revenue is going right along with it. At $19,000, we'll anticipate that that's going to continue. Developments and improvements from people's homes is where most of this is coming from. On item 3, we have line improvements and extensions. We have received a Ohio Public Works grant in the amount of $131,791. We've already done the improvements. This is the reimbursement coming back to us. Appreciate the engineering work again in regards, and as well as you council to get these kinds of grants for our water line projects and other utilities, as well as road work, which was going to be number 4 for you. Roads for asphalt. This is a partnership program on the north end in the Dan Emmett sidewalk and barrier. If you've been up around in that general area of Decatur Drive and Emmett Drive and those areas, they were going to end up soon. We'll have some new highways in there and renewed highways, I should say, and utilities as well. The barrier, I would be really specific about this barrier. This is a shielded barrier that's running right along in the park area. That will be a safety feature for us in that area. And then as we continue on, in the Buckeye Edition road paving, Clinton Township has has reciprocated $90,000 back to us. They've done all the work in the Buckeye addition. We're going to take their dollars, pair it with ours, and when we do our paving this year, the Buckeye addition roads will get repaved in that regards. So. And then the last ones, Mr. Bourne has been granted from Knox County Foundation an award for $425 for his department, and I'm certainly he has a place for that already. So we appreciate for Knox County Foundation supporting our community. Thank you, Mrs. Seabolt.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hill?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Now we're ready for a long resolution. Resolution number 2024-62, Mr. Hill.
Resolution number 2024-62, a resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to release a request for qualifications for identifying and selecting a qualified firm or firms to provide design services and construction for a salt barn at 1700 Old Delaware Road, City of Mount Vernon, Ohio. Identify and enter into contract with the selected firm or firms for design services and construction for a salt barn at 1700 Old Delaware Road, City of Mount Vernon, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Severns?
Yes, I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings
Seconded.
and move Resolution 2024-62 to its third and final reading.
Still seconding?
Second. Still do, actually. My opinion has not changed.
Any discussion on the suspension of the rules? Mr. Hill?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
The rule is suspended. Mr. Severns?
Yes, I move to pass Resolution 2024-62.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution. Any discussion? Mr. Severns?
Well, we've discussed this need. This is a salt barn that we have already appropriated money for in our budget. And hopefully if this, if all the pieces fall into place, we could maybe have a new salt barn by the end of 2025. And we know we need this because we're actually gonna lose the property where we currently store our salt right now. That's eventually gonna be sold off and we wouldn't be able to be there unless we wanted to buy it. So, and it's not a good spot to buy, so putting it out where our current water treatment plant is in that area out on 1700 Old Delaware Road is where we want to do this, I believe. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hill?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seabolt?
Yes.
Mr. Severns?
Yes.
Mr. Mahan? Mrs. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman?
Yes.
Ms. Keener?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted. That concludes the resolutions for this evening. We now move to ordinances. We have no ordinances for third reading. We have some for second reading. The first one is ordinance number 2024-21. Mr. Hill?
Ordinance number 2024-21, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of parcel number 66-07961.000, also known as 0 Vernon View Drive, from the present zoning of R1 Single Family District to P&D Planned Neighborhood District.
Mrs. Keener?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will give this its second reading, and we have a public hearing at what time?
30-minute public hearing beginning at 6:45.
At the next committee meeting, or at the next city council meeting. Thank you.
Let it be noted, we will have a public hearing at our next meeting. That ordinance receives its second reading. We now move to ordinance number 2024-27. Mr. Hill?
Ordinance number 2024-27, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of parcel number 70-50046.000 and parcel number 70-50054.000, also known as 875 Harcourt Road, from the present zoning of Clinton Township GB General Business to GB General Business, and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Keener?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will give this its second reading, and could we have a 5-minute?
We have a public hearing scheduled for
Okay.
this as well. This being the third reading, this will be a 5-minute public hearing from 6:40 to 6:45.
Oh, good, we've already done it. Great, thank you.
This ordinance receives its second reading. We now move to ordinance number 2024-28. Mr. Hill?
Ordinance number 2024-28, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of Chapter 183 of the codified ordinances of the City of Mount Vernon regarding municipal income tax and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Sebo.
I would like to suspend the rules requiring 3 separate readings and take ordinance number 2024-28 to its third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval,
Yes.
Mr. Sevens.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
The roll is suspended. Mrs. Sebo.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2024-28 to its...
Second.
Been moved and seconded for the adoption of this ordinance. Any discussion? Mrs. Sebo.
I think we'll let Rob tell us again about this.
There are two provisions. First of all, the first provision, which moves the income tax rate from 1.5% to 2%, is a catch-up from something that the people, citizens voted on back in 2017. And so I'm not sure exactly why we missed that at that point. The rest of the ordinance is requirements from the state of Ohio that we have to make changes to our municipal income tax ordinance that Mr. Stoller and I have worked on for the last several months.
So this is paperwork we're cleaning up.
Yep.
Can we qualify that these taxes have already been being collected and
Yes,
this is
since
not an
2017.
increase?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not an increase.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval,
Yes.
Mr. Sevens.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods.
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. Now we move to ordinances of first reading, and the first one is ordinance number 2024-29. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2024-29, an ordinance with reference to the wages and benefits of bargaining unit employees and fixing the wages and benefits of bargaining unit employees of the City of Mount Vernon Police Department who are members of the certified unit known as police sergeants and lieutenants, police officers, and police records clerk to be effective the first day of July 2024 and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you, sir. I move to suspend the rules that require 3 separate readings and take ordinance 2024-29 to its third and final reading.
Second.
And moved and seconded for the suspension of the rules. Any discussion on the suspension? Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval,
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
The roll is suspended. Mrs. Woods.
Thank you. Move to adopt ordinance 2024-29.
Second.
And moved and seconded for the adoption of this resolution, this ordinance. Mrs. Woods.
Mr. Cyrus, I have a question. It says takes effective first day of July 2024. Does that affect anything that goes retro to June?
No, the contract itself will
Okay.
take effect, but we've agreed, part of the term of the contract
Okay.
is the pay would be.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Okay, thank you.
Just so the public knows, this is the collective bargaining agreement with the union, the police union, and they've worked long and hard with the administration and the union on this agreement, and the administration and the police union has signed off on it. It's up to us for approval now. Mr. Hill.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Seaval,
Yes.
Mr. Severns.
Yes.
Mr. Mahan, Mrs. Woods,
Yes.
Mr. Ruckman,
Yes.
Ms. Keener.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted. The final ordinance for this evening is ordinance number 2024-30. Mr. Hill.
Ordinance number 2024-30, an ordinance fixing the number of hourly employees of the City of Mount Vernon in the Public Works Department and declaring an emergency.
Mrs. Woods.
Thank you. We'll give this its first reading, and can I get a 5-minute committee meeting, please? The next meeting.
This ordinance receives its first reading, and that concludes the legislative portion of the meeting. We now have remarks from administration. Mayor Starr.
Thank you, Mr. President and Council. Just a few things. We have been receiving some calls on the banners that are downtown, in particular some of the Pride awareness banners. And want to reassure the public, no taxpayer dollars have gone into these at all. We do not pay for those. Those are something that goes through Experience Mount Vernon. It has a group of people that this has to be privately funded, for one thing. And anyway, we've still been sort of pressured to take them down anyway because of the message, but we are very careful to not engage in what is called viewpoint discrimination. It is something that is we have to be very sensitive about. There is still free speech that we must protect, and so anyway, that's where we are on the subject matter here. So anyway, just so you're aware of that. And secondly, yes, the overflow areas for the video are up and running. I will probably have to reduce the volume in the lobby so we don't have the feedback problem from the audio. But we do have the downstairs conference room available for additional overflow, as well as the lobby for people to be able to follow along in real time. It will not be a delay like you would see on YouTube. It would be in real time as the meeting is going on. So we're all set for that.
And we could probably tag team that. If somebody here is speaking and they want to leave this room, someone from one of the other areas could come up here if they wanted to speak, as long as we know they're going to speak.
Sure. Yeah, that we'll kind of work out that procedure along the way, but we're ready to take on more people anyway. So, and also wanted to say Hiawatha Water Park is in full swing, except today it was like 60 degrees. So I wouldn't we get in the water when it's 60 degrees out there. But anyway, it's going very well. And last thing I just wanted to mention is at the special municipal planning commission meeting last Thursday, we did vote unanimously to approve the new zoning code rewrite as it is presented, and it will be coming to you soon for additional robust discussion and debate. Anyway, that's all I had this evening, sir.
And for those water park people, it's supposed to be 90 on Thursday, and it's supposed to have a heat wave next week, so get your swimming trunks ready.
Yeah.
Mr. Saggers.
Yes, one of Terry and I's new favorite pastime is reporting the square report. So it's fun for us. So, speaking of money, last year, the cleanup day, which lasted a week, the city spent roughly $16,000. After we got our bills from Republic this week, and with the collection that we took in, that one instance where we filled up 8 30-yard dumpsters plus a truck or two from the city taking in couches, mattresses, a hot tub, which was not advertised, but thank you for your donation. We paid $2,500 for that. It's a significant savings. We're planning on doing another one of those in October. I think that's a huge success for the city. So if we do exactly the same thing, you're talking about, $5,000 to get. That's good. So and that logistically that just all worked out, and it worked out well with the help of a few volunteers. So we were able to pull that off. Another thing, last council meeting we talked about catching doing an all call to the public, trying to find a vandal who burned down, and I'm being very generous when I say vandal, an arsonist who pulled up and burned down totally melted a trash can and set fire to the pavilion over at Dan Emmett Park. That person has been apprehended. So thank you to the police department, and we're working with that. However, another act of vandalism at Hiawatha Park has taken place, where 2 children, and I say children because they were very young kids, dressed in all black, and they tried to hide in the bushes and crawl in the grass. New at vandalism, I assume. They set the toilet paper on fire, and again, yeah. So come on, guys, it's 2024. We will catch you, we will find you, and in this case, we will charge you for arson. So stop messing with the parks unless you want a criminal record at a very young age. So, with that said, once we get those pictures out, we will share them to the public, and you will be caught, and we will punish you. That's how the legal system works. So this is a warning to anybody watching and to the parents of children who get a little aggressive at night. Watch your kids, or they'll be hearing from this guy. So we're tired of investing in our parks only to have somebody set them on fire. So that's all I got, Mr. President.
Mr. Scott.
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Mr. Braun.
As Mr. Scott noted during the legislative part of the meeting, my office received a $425 grant from the Knox County Foundation. We want to thank the foundation for doing that. I want to talk a little bit about it. I send my domestic violence prosecutor and my victim advocate to the International Domestic Violence Prosecution Conference every year, and they always come back with new ways of dealing with the problems of domestic violence here in the community. One of the things they found was a book that we're handing out to a number of our victims. Unfortunately, we didn't have money in the budget so that we could acquire a number of these. We got a few. My victim advocate saw the grant application for the foundation. She put it in, and they managed to award us the grant, and we're incredibly grateful and thankful for that to help us with the mission of reducing domestic violence here in the city of Mount Vernon and in Knox County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Severance.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mrs. Woods.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Seabolt.
How old are these vandals?
We're gonna find out.
Oh, you don't
Yeah.
know? Oh, okay. I didn't know.
We see
what-
them on camera, but we haven't
Oh.
caught them yet.
Oh,
So
you haven't
thi-
caught any
This
yet.
new round, we haven't
Oh,
caught
okay.
yet, but we gonna get them.
Okay, thank you. That's all I was.
Mr. Ruckman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to congratulate Mrs. Seavolt and John on the award that you received from the Knox County Republican Party. And thank you for all of your hard work over the years, and also to Mr. Salyers.
Okay, there it is.
Who could not grace us with his presence, but congratulations all the same. And as well as wish everybody a happy Father's Day, because I believe that's coming up in between now and our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Skinner.
Just two things, Mr. President, and everybody else. I love this piece of legislation that's coming up. I've already done the numbers on it, so I can't wait to discuss that. And also, I just would like everybody to know that we will be having a zoning committee meeting each of the 3 meetings. There will be one that's a public hearing, but I want council to know that we will be having a meeting each session so that we can have lots of time to discuss that. If you haven't started to look through a copy and you would like me to send it to you, please let me know so that you can review that before we get there.
It's also available on the city's website.
That too. But if you need me to email it to you, if you can't find it. That's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
How many pages is it?
You know, 1 million.
A million.
Yeah. No, I think it's, yeah, it's just over 200.
But pictures.
Lots of pictures.
I like pictures.
It does shorten the reading a bit.
How big is it?
Okay, that concludes the legislative portion of the meeting. Thank you to the media for being here this evening. And we had a great first Friday, last Friday. I mean, it was just crowded all the way. I stood in the square, you look down Main Street, wall-to-wall people. What a beautiful night, what a beautiful event and for Mount Vernon. That being said, I'd call for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and second, we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
It was a lot of people.